Hi, I'm Dr. Joanette. I'm delighted that you found this channel. If you love to cook brain-healthy recipes, you are in the right place. I'm an ER doctor, a chef, and organic gardener. I'm also passionate about brain science and how it can help you eat better as well as live a healthier life. This is the channel where you will bring neuroscience into your kitchen to help you eat, cook, and enjoy all kinds of delicious brain healthy foods. And today we are going to be cooking turkey rice soup. But make sure you watch all the way to the end because you aren't going to want to miss my neuronutrition nugget, where I'm going to tell you why turkey rice soup is so good for your brain and comforting to your body. It's actually a form of self-care. In addition to that, there's my simplest smart tip, where I give you a tip from my kitchen that you can use in your kitchen to make your life easier or more healthy. If you find this content valuable, please help my analytics by clicking the like button, subscribing, so I can continue to bring you more brain healthy recipes as well as neuro nutrition tips. So let's go ahead and get cooking. To start with, we're going to add 2 cups of water to our kettle. Proportions for rice versus water: always add twice as much water to the kettle as rice. And you also want to add a little salt to your kettle. For 2 cups, I like to be a little light on the salt, so I add about a teaspoon of rice. We're going to turn on the burner here. And as soon as our water is boiling, we are going to add the rice. Now that our water is boiling, we're going to go ahead and add 1 cup of rice. Remember, the proportions are twice the amount of water as rice. We already have our salt, and I'm going to just stir it a little bit, bring it back to a boil. And turn your heat down all the way as low as it'll go, and no peaking, because you want to keep that lid on and let the heat of the water and the little bit of heat from the burner below. While the rice is cooking, we're going to go ahead and get the rest of the ingredients ready for our turkey rice soup. I'm going to move the rice from the induction burner here over to my big stove, where I'm going to let it cook for the next 20 minutes, and that way we'll be able to use this burner for making our turkey rice soup. It's time for our Simple is Smart tip. Today's Simple is Smart tip is a tip about making your own beef, chicken, or vegetable broth for your soups. What Farmer Fred and I do is we collect all the vegetable scraps. Remember, we grow most of our vegetables and they're organic, so it's safe to eat the peelings as well as the scraps, since they come from our gardens for the most part. And so you save the vegetable scraps, you save the beef bones, the chicken carcasses, any of the chicken scraps and beef scraps or whatever meat you have. Then when you get a big bag of vegetables and meat, put it together in a big stock pot, boil it down for about 10-12 hours, strain out the meat, and you have a delicious, rich, hearty broth that you can use for soups, stews, gravies, all kinds of delicious things. The step-by-step process for this is on my website at growwithdrjoanette.com. Just search for how to make stock or how to make broth. What are the 5 ingredients we need for our turkey rice soup? We're going to need some celery, my homemade turkey broth, an onion, a carrot. It doesn't have to be this big. This happens to be a leftover carrot that I had from my garden from last year. And of course, some rice. In addition to that, salt if you like salt. If you don't have homemade turkey broth, just purchase some chicken stock or turkey stock if you can find it. And a lot of times it has plenty of salt in it, so you don't need extra salt. I never add salt to my homemade turkey broth, so I usually will add a little salt to my soup. Or purchase low sodium broth as well. The first thing we're going to do is cut up our carrots, onions, and celery, and then we're going to saute them. I think we'll probably only use about half of this carrot today. Maybe a little extra. You may be one of these people that likes big pieces of carrot in your soup and big pieces of onions and celery. I tend to like the smaller pieces in my soup. And we're gonna cut the onion next. When I cut an onion, I like to cut part of it off so that I have a nice firm base that I can set it on and cut it. I usually cut it in half like that, turn one of them, and I'm gonna cut sections like this. Then you can cut in like this. This helps assure that you don't cut yourself when you're chopping your onion. This piece kind of came off, so I'm going to just set it aside. I use all the scraps from my vegetables I just save them in a bag in the freezer, and when it's time to make my next batch of turkey broth or chicken broth or beef broth, I grab all those scraps of vegetables, add them into the bones and the leftover pieces of meat, and boil them down into broth. So we'll set those aside for now. Alternately, when I'm chopping something, I have something I love. It makes quick and simple work of chopping. It's a chopper made by Pampered Chef. You can find a link to it here on my website. But I'll just put a piece of onion in it a couple of times and it's chopped. Makes quick work of chopping onions, celery, carrots, anything you want to chop. It comes apart. You can clean it real easily. And it's my favorite way of chopping things when I'm in a hurry. Move that aside, and now we want to cut up a couple of pieces of celery. Let's do a couple of sticks of celery. Again, I'm going to cut off the ends. These have already been washed. And I'll save all those ends for my bag of soups, or my bag of vegetables in the freezer. I like my celery a little smaller. Some people like it much larger than I do. The next step we're going to do is I'm going to saute the onions and the celery. I add the carrots right into my kettle of soup once I've added the broth. We're going to saute the onions and the celery in a frying pan here on about medium. I usually like to saute it on medium heat. Cook it till the celery is just starting to get tender. And I'm going to turn that down a little bit. And the onions are starting to get translucent. Now it's time for today's Neuro Nutrition Nugget. Have you ever wondered why a bowl of soup is so good and comforting on a cold, rainy day? It's not a coincidence. There's some actual brain science behind it. And the neuroscience of why soup is so comforting is really quite fascinating. It depends upon the interactions between our brain, our taste buds, and our gut. So to understand why it helps us feel good, it's important to look at what is in the soup. First and foremost, there is the warmth of the soup. Our bodies crave warmth and comfort when we aren't feeling good, and a bowl of hot soup can provide just that for us. As the warmth from the soup hits our gut, it triggers release of neurotransmitters called endorphins. Remember, endorphins are those natural painkillers that make us feel good as well as alleviate stress. In addition to the endorphins, the ingredients of the soup also have a calming effect on our brain. For example, turkey rice soup, which is what we're making today, contains an amino acid called cysteine that helps to reduce inflammation in our body. It can also help to ease the symptoms of a cold or a flu, then promote healing in our body. Additionally, the act of smelling the aroma of the soup as we eat it will stimulate our smell receptors called olfactory receptors. These are then linked to the emotional processing centers in our brain that can then evoke those positive memories from our childhood. I always remember when my kids were little and they came home from school, I would try to have a bowl of soup ready for them and maybe a grilled cheese sandwich to go with it. They love that, and even today remind me of how comforting that bowl of hot soup was after they'd had a rough day at school. So when you have a bowl of soup, eat it slowly and mindfully. Be fully present in the moment and let it nourish you. It will help you feel grounded and centered. In fact, it is a form of self-care. It's simple, it's delicious, and I hope you enjoy your turkey rice soup today. So now we're going to make the soup portion of our turkey rice soup. We're going to add to our kettle a quart of my homemade turkey broth. If you don't have homemade turkey broth, obviously, just purchase some turkey or chicken stock and it will work just fine. In addition to that, you want to add your sauteed vegetables. And I go ahead also and add the carrots at this time. The rest of these vegetables, they'll cook a little bit more. I'm going to set this over here. And the carrots seem to, I like them a little crunchier, so I like to add them at this point. We're going to let that go ahead and come to a boil on medium heat. Well, actually, we'll let it come to a boil on medium-high heat. Turn it down to simmer and let it simmer about 15-20 minutes until the vegetables are nice and soft. Our soup is done and our vegetables are soft but not overcooked, and it's time to finish it up. So we're going to add to that, we're going to add to it 1.5 cups of rice that we cooked earlier. I like to pre-cook my rice in water instead of add it to the soup and let it cook in the soup. And 1 cup of chopped up leftover turkey. You can add more if you like more turkey in your soup than the 1 cup. I like to ladle it in the bowl and then garnish it with a little chopped parsley. And set that aside. So let's go for a quick walk outside. It's not very far out to my kitchen garden deck area where my herbs are. I love having parsley available just outside my kitchen door on my back deck. There's some petunias there, and here is my parsley plant in a nice pot. I just love to pick a few pieces of it. In addition to parsley being delicious and making a great garnish, it's also really good for your brain. Parsley has a nutrient that is great as an anti-inflammatory. In addition to that, it also has vitamin B and vitamin K, which are great for the immune system. So we're going to pick some parsley here. We'll use it as garnish, but we'll be generous in putting it into our soup today. Let's take that back in and get it into the soup. I love having parsley, just parsley and other fresh herbs. I actually have a little salad garden out there, some basil, and a pot of parsley. We're going to just garnish that with a little bit of parsley, and it is ready for a nice, comforting bowl of delicious turkey rice soup. 5 ingredients, super easy, super quick, delicious, healthy, nutritious, and good for your brain, good for your body, and good for your well-being. I hope you love this recipe. Please click that like button and subscribe. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss any of my delicious, healthy, nutritious, quick and easy recipes at 𝗧𝘂𝗿𝗶𝗆.com. See you next time.